Good
Hello,
morning.
hello, everyone. This is Laura Fournier with Nations Lending. And we have Michael, the Michael and Laura show weekly. And we are going to be talking about a great subject, something that has been out of style for 2 years or so, and it's back. What is old is new again. And we're going to have great conversation about home inspections. They're back. So introduce yourself.
They are back indeed. Michael Kurtanik, Macintosh Realtors. And I had to kind of blow off the dust and cobwebs on the addenda for contracts, Laura, when it comes to inspections, because we had a flurry during the pandemic when the interest rates were artificially lowered to spur the economy during the pandemic. More people went out to buy, and we were competing 7, 14, 31 offers on a house kind of thing. And people waived appraisals, waived inspections. But now interest rates are up to the sevens, thanks to you, Laura, and only you. You, Laura,
My
for
magic
the
wand.
high interest rates. And we are seeing fewer multiple bids on properties, which means that sellers are seeing these addenda called home inspections, Laura.
Yes, they absolutely are. And yeah, I use my wand on those interest rates, and they're just at historic averages. So no need for anybody to panic. Remember, I bought my first home at 11%, double digits, and I know several people that bought at 14. The highest I've heard was 18 and a half. A friend of mine brought that to my attention. So 7, even though it's not the number we're used to, it's still an average, historic average, 300-year average, 6.687 or somewhere along there. So 7, right there.
Yep.
And hopefully they'll come back a little bit.
Yep.
I'm working on that magic. Since it's
Good.
Halloween, we're going to use magic.
Well, in the meantime,
So we're going to talk about home inspections. What kind of home inspections are there? How many are there, and what kinds, and what does it all mean?
It's as many as you want, Laura, but you also want to keep an offer clean and acceptable, or at least negotiable with the seller. So there's a general home inspection where the buyer hires a general home inspector to go through the house up and down. There's also, if the home, Laura, is not on public water, public sewer, then the house is on a well and septic, which means that a buyer can also choose to do a water quality inspection and also a septic inspection. There are also radon inspections that can occur, chimney inspections, environmental inspections, and on down the line. Many different kinds.
So that's a lot of inspections. And are each one of these items like something on the contract that you're telling the seller that you're going to have them? And how does that process, like, what are the steps, and when does a buyer decide when they're going to do an inspection and all of that?
Good question. So I broached the subject of inspections during showings of properties, even before they like a house or don't like a house. Because, for example, Laura, I'm showing you and your husband a house, and your husband remarks that, geez, I can't really access the attic. I don't want to go up there. And I'm like, don't worry, the home inspector you hire, Laura, will go on up there with their ladder and go ahead and check the attic for us, okay? Or somebody might say, these windows seem to be single pane or not very energy efficient. And I'm like, yeah, the inspector will certainly note that and everything. So the conversations really begins during the time of the showings. But the general inspection is the most common one. And that is that is a separate addendum to the contract. So when we write an offer, Laura, the only paragraph in there says that The house is being sold as is unless otherwise stated and attached to this contract. So if you don't
Okay,
have a separate piece of paper that says, yes, we as buyers are choosing to do this or these inspections, then they're buying it as is. So
okay.
it's part of the paperwork.
That's interesting. And when you're decided to have an inspection, are there different types of, not like you're having an inspection by a general inspector, but are there different meanings to what you put on the contract, like getting out of the contract, or you're just doing it for information or that sort of thing?
Yeah. And so here's what we do. So we write an offer and the buyers want to do inspection. Now there's a couple different paths a buyer can take. Buyers can say, waiving inspection, I don't want to do an inspection. Okay, your choice. They can do an inspection and ask the sellers to fix stuff before settlement, or at least negotiate what the inspector finds. There's also
Mhm.
another kind of inspection where the buyers still pay for the home inspector to inspect the property, but they will buy it still as is, and they're doing it for informational purposes only. No matter what the inspector
Okay.
reveals, they're still gonna go to settlement. The
Mhm.
fourth and final kind of
Okay.
general inspection is the one where they will do a home inspection within a certain amount of days, sometimes 7, sometimes 10 days. And they're still gonna buy it as is, but if the home inspector reveals something egregious, then the buyers have the right to terminate the contract and walk away and get their
Okay.
earnest money deposit. So just a quick recap, they can choose to do one or not to do one. If they choose not to do one, fine. If they choose to do one, they can do 3 types. The one where they'll ask the sellers to fix stuff before settlement, the one where they're still gonna do one, but not ask the sellers to fix anything and still go to settlement, or if there's something really egregious, they'll terminate the contract and walk away.
Okay. That is good information, and I'm glad you recapped that. So if it wasn't, does it have to be an egregious something, or can it just be anything if they mark the one to walk away?
Great question. So in the language of the addendum says that for any reason whatsoever, a buyer can walk away and terminate the contract.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell buyers, listen, if an outlet isn't working, or the handrail going up the steps to the second floor is a little wobbly, it doesn't rise to the level of egregiousness to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that really why you want to walk away from this house? That you spent so much time and lost sleep over and wrote an offer and put in earnest money? Is that enough of a reason? Now, if they go to the basement and the foundation is bulging and buckling, if the inspector goes up to the attic and there's mold or the shingles are falling apart or whatever, something, then yes, or the septic system failed, then they can walk away. Then
Mm-hmm.
yes, that rises to the level. But if an outlet's out or a light bulb's missing,
Yeah.
yeah, so we have to work that out. That's where the art of what we do comes in.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So how does a buyer find a home inspector to do these inspections?
Great question. So as with when we have our first conversations, as with title companies, I will ask them point blank, do you know a home inspector? We have a lot of buyers, Laura, that have bought, sold houses through the years, and they're like, oh, we've used so-and-so in the past. We like that
Mm-hmm.
inspector. We want to keep that inspector. Michael, please reach out to that inspector we use for this house that we're selling,
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be like, okay, no problem. That's great. If they don't know, they're like, Michael, pick one. I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, why don't I send you at least 3 or more home inspectors? I'll send you their phone number, email, and their website. And you just take some time and take a look at it and do some research. you know,
Mhm.
they're pretty much like title companies, Laura. That one shouldn't charge, $2,000 for an inspection. Another one only charges like $400, So they're pretty much the
Mhm.
same. It still takes a couple hours to do an inspection, no matter the size of the home. So, and they give a detailed report within 24 hours of the inspection. So, my approach is always, here are some people, you do the research and you tell me whom you would like to use.
Yeah, exactly. And is the buyer at the home inspection with the inspector?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. So I tell my buyers this. I am there the whole time. I bring a folding chair if the house is vacant. I will bring my laptop. I will get my work done, and I'll just let the inspector do their thing. Now I tell the buyers this. You are paying for the inspection. This is your report. You are more than welcome to be there the whole time. No problem. I do tell people also this. You also have busy schedules. You're balancing family, work, life, things like that. At least come by for the last half hour when the inspector is almost finished or finished, and then the inspector can give you, the buyers, a summary of the inspection of what was revealed. And then we have some initial conversations about what
Mhm.
to do next. But again, completely up to them. The only thing I'm not crazy about is if they shadow the inspector the whole time. Like the inspector turns on the dishwasher, I don't want my buyers to be leaning over the inspector's shoulders and making sure and stuff, and because everything just,
Mhm.
a 2-hour inspection becomes a 4-hour inspection. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, so that's interesting, good stuff. And I know some home inspectors do some of the other, maybe the radon and the termite, but
Mhm.
is it true that it's generally a septic and a water company that do the well and septic tests?
So interesting you asked that
That's usually
because
like separate from the general guy.
yeah, so that's interesting. Many of the inspectors I have used will also do a radon inspection. Now, I'll just go on a
Hmm.
quick tangent. A radon is invisible gas that comes up from the Earth's core, and the government's EPA has set standards for the levels that of radon that can be um, healthy enough or make you really, really sick. And that can be a whole separate thing. But
That's a natural thing.
yeah, it's a natural, it comes out.
Radon is natural to the earth. Yeah.
It is natural to the earth, but
And
it is lethal in heavy doses. Like over 50 picocuries
mhm.
per milliliter, it's becomes toxic and deadly.
Fancy
So
term. You said that so smoothly. You're like a scientist.
no, yeah, no, yeah, you know how it goes. It's just my experience. So anything over 4 is you start getting nauseous and vomiting and stuff like that. So a general inspector will, for an additional cost, set a radon kit at the time of the inspection at a central location of the house, and then come back in 48 hours to pick it up and then turn it in for the buyers to a testing facility to get the results of the radon test. And that only takes about 1 to 2 business days to get those results. So a general inspector will do a radon test. Many inspectors, Laura, will also do a water quality test.
Oh, okay.
If it's at a well, they will take 2 empty bottles, typical bottled water, and they'll take one sample in the basement of the house where the well water comes into the house before filtration, and then they'll take a second empty bottle of water and they'll fill it up with tap water, and they'll send both samples. They'll take it after the inspection to a water quality testing facility, and within 1 or 2 business days after that, we will all get the
Mhm.
results on that. So
Mhm.
some inspectors will do that. Now, a septic inspection, you have to hire a septic company and they have to go on site, and they're pretty backed up, no pun intended, to take the septic inspection, and that takes a little bit of time. But yeah, that's kind of how it goes. Many inspectors now are like all-in-one kind of inspectors.
Okay, well, that's good to know. It saves some time then. And
Right.
if by chance, because I know radon scares some people, say it does come in high or higher
Yeah.
than the EPA, what happens?
So it's got to be addressed. So the government has set a limit of 4.0 picocuries per milliliter, and that's so if the levels are below that, then the EPA deems it as still just fine to live in, so we're fine. But if the numbers are over 4.0, then we present all this to the seller and say, listen, we don't want to walk away from this house, but we need you to install what's called a radon mitigation system. And simply put, is the radon mitigation company, Laura, will simply poke a hole in the basement, run a pipe from the hole in the basement out and up the side of the house. They will add a fan outside to draw that the gases from the hole in the basement up and out into the atmosphere. And there's a gauge on the side of the pipe in the basement so that you can see that the fan is still working on the radon system. And that's going to have to be taken care of. And then the inspector has to come back, put the radon kit back in the house and have it retested.
Okay.
And 8 hours later, they'll pick it up and everything. So it's a bit of a process. It could delay settlement, but
Okay.
there is a retesting that must occur so that the home is habitable for the buyers.
Okay. And it sounds like a fairly standard kind of simple fix that they already know how to do it. It can be done. It can fix every radon situation.
Yes, yes. Now, I've never seen a retest fail, but there's never a guarantee. Something's wrong with with the way it was installed. Maybe the fan's not working or something like that. That's why it's key to have it retested. And every time I've seen in my experience, it's been below the 4.0 threshold and everything's fine and we go to settlement. But I have heard cases around the country where the retest didn't work and it has to be addressed again.
Okay, and that's good because they're going to take care of the situation and the buyer can be confident. And then maybe even as a homeowner, you do a test periodically just to make sure it's still working. And
Oh yeah, that's great because so many people don't know this, Laura. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up. The EPA says that no matter what, you should retest your radon in your home every 2 to 3 years, no matter what. So please get it retested. Don't think that the gauge does not tell you that there's no radon. The gauge simply says that if the fan works and the radon mitigation system works, but please get it tested every 2 to 3 years. Yes.
And as far as I know, you can actually do the testing yourself because you can buy the kits when you do your favorite Saturday run to Home Depot and Lowe's. They carry them and they give you instructions and you can do it as a, do it yourselfer and just do that. Like you check maybe you still have batteries. Well, you shouldn't really have replaceable batteries in your smoke detectors anymore because you should have the ones that are sealed and last for 10 years. So that might be another thing for you people out there to do a check on and get those changed out. But you can, make it a nice Saturday project every 2-3 years to make sure your family is safe with the radon. And also CO2 detectors, want to make sure that those are good and operational. They also come with those 10-year sealed lithium batteries that you don't have to replace annually. So, but you don't want to live without them. These are things you don't want to live without because it's safety.
Right. And builders have already have all that built in. They have the smoke detectors that are hardwired with 10-year battery backup. They have the carbon monoxide alarms throughout the house. And so they've kept up with the times, the builders. So kudos to them.
Yeah. And so is there any need to test the water, or do people test the water if they're on city water versus well water? Is that done? Or
So,
some people do it or not do it?
yeah, the water quality test is typically just done on a well. I've
Okay.
not seen where buyers would want to do one if they're on public water, public sewer. I'm not saying that's a no, but that never happens. It's really the well water. You want to make sure the water's potable and drinkable, does have the bacteria. And if that fails, Laura, then as with the radon, we present it to the seller, say, hey, here's the report. Water quality is not where it's supposed to be. It's not potable, so not habitable. So what we need to do is get it fixed, and the seller will agree or not agree, but they'll agree to take care of that. And simply put, there's a you can put a UV light in, and then as with radon, Laura, someone has to come back and retest it. Because after you put in a UV light, which is the most common thing to do and the thing you're supposed to do, is get it retested just like radon if the radon fails. And then and every time I've seen a UV light installed, I've seen the water quality improve so that it's habitable and potable.
Yeah, the perfect remedy. So how often should they check their own water after they move in? They know their water's drinkable when they moved in. Is there a suggested time frame for testing your house water once you own the house?
Each state varies, but again, like radon, every 2 to 3 years. So if you have a radon system, just put it in your calendar every 2 to 3 years. Test the water every 2 to 3 years and get the septic emptied, every really 3 to 5 years, family of 4, but you can do that every couple years too.
Okay. Because your house and all your systems, these are mechanical devices and they need maintenance. They need repairs and eventually they'll need replacement. But the more you maintenance and repair them, the longer they're going to last because anything that you take care of just lasts longer.
Yep.
So
just like our bodies, we have to take care of our bodies too.
Our bodies are mechanical devices as well. We're just soft
Exactly.
tissue instead of hard metal. Unless
Yeah,
you're the Terminator.
Now, how do home inspections affect you as a lender, Laura? I talked about the possibility of deadlines being extended as things are revealed in the inspections and fixed, but how about from your end? What role do inspections play in you lending the money and through the underwriting process?
For the most part, I don't care to see the home inspection because I certainly don't want to give the underwriter any more ideas of things that they want to see. But if it is something that the appraiser sees and they note it on the appraisal, and it could be something that also came up on the home inspection, then it has to be repaired, maintenance, repaired, replaced if it becomes a condition. And a couple of examples of that would be, say they saw mold, because you could have a mold inspection. And if they saw visible mold, the appraiser is going to note that as a health and safety hazard. If, they did see something like, a bulging foundation or something like that, they're going to note it in the appraisal. If it's an FHA loan, they're going to be looking for handrails on staircases inside and out, and also peeling paint is a big item that FHA in particular looks at because they don't want people eating lead paint chips. So if they see some of these things that are visible and they note it in the appraisal, then it has to be fixed prior to settlement. So we don't necessarily see the home inspection. There are some down payment assistance programs that require the home inspection. So then it would become part of the loan process, but most of them do not require that. They highly suggest it, they highly recommend it, and so do we, but we don't require it for the most part, like in general.
Okay, so let me ask you this. How does the timing work from your end? And this is what I mean by that. In my experience, Sometimes lenders will wait to hear about the home inspection before ordering an appraisal. Some lenders order the appraisal at the time of receiving the contract, the file started and stuff like that. But some lenders wait because they want to make sure that the inspection is, no one's walking away, and get fixed, and then they order the appraisal. How have you handled through the years and today, the timing of when to order an appraisal?
Yeah, I definitely just have that conversation with the buyer and the buyer's agent. Because we like to order the appraisal immediately as soon as I have the buyer's consent to proceed. They've signed the loan package and that's their consent to proceed. Then I order title and I order appraisal. However, I asked that question, do they want me to hold off on ordering it until the inspection is fine? Because the buyer will pay for the appraisal up front because the appraiser gets paid for doing his work when he goes out to do it. He's received his payment. So if they have an idea or they just want to hold off, then I will hold off at their request. But otherwise, I do like to order the appraisal right away, or they can just schedule it for after they've had the home inspection. Now, the buyer is not usually at the appraisal, almost never.
Right.
And that request goes to the listing agent, but sometimes it is the buyer's agent that lets them in the house. I've had that happen too. But I ask, it's a conversation because I want to proceed to not spend the money on the appraisal if they think there's going to be a home inspection issue. Like if they've seen a couple things and they want to make, like, it's validation that whatever their, the foundation is solid, or there was a damp basement and they want to check that out, something like that. So I'll wait until, whatever makes the contract proceed. But we do like to order everything up front because we want to get as much done early in the process to smooth out the process so we hit, deadlines nicely.
Excellent. So I want to wrap up. I wanted to mention one thing. You triggered it. You said that appraisers, they get paid up front at the time. I want to emphasize too, Laura, that the inspections we discussed, the general water quality, radon, mold, whatever, all of those inspectors will not release reports until they get paid. So it's at the time of the service. I want to emphasize with buyers, sometimes they think that they can wait till settlement and then use whatever, write a check at time of settlement, whatever. No. The inspectors are to get paid at the time of their service. So that's
the point of sale. They get paid up front. So if something later on, triggers that that transaction is going to not go through, they've gotten paid. They did their work. They got paid. And, that's fair because they did do their work. So everything else happens at settlement, but the appraisal and the inspections, they get paid whether the transaction finalizes or not. So they do get paid up front. Absolutely. So you got to have, even if you're doing a no down payment loan or you're getting down payment assistance, you have to have some of your own money to pay for the appraisal, which are running between maybe $475 and $650 on the high end. And your home inspections, those really vary greatly depending on the number of items you're including and also the size of the property and the house. So those could be equally that much and more, with the well and septic can be another doubling that. So I would say between, just if I added it all up, between 1,200 and 2,000 up front. Yeah. If you have every inspection and the appraisal, I think that's pretty good estimate.
Yeah, that's about right. But at least what you're paying for, Laura, is peace of mind and knowing what you need to work on after settlement and knowing what's working. So that's really all I have when it comes to home inspections, Laura. Thank you so much. What a great conversation.
I think it's a great and educational conversation, and it also brought in that even after you go to settlement, that house is yours. You have cleaning, you have maintenance, you have repairs, and you have eventual upgrades. So put aside some money, donate some money to those items so that when something happens, you have the money. It's not an emergency. It just becomes an inconvenience because you already have the money saved up to fix that hot water heater or whatever it's going to take. So just some good sound advice there to plant a seed.
Good.
Awesome,
Well,
awesome
thanks.
topic, Mike. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you, Laura. We'll see you and everybody next week.
All righty. Take care. Have a blessed week.
You too. Bye-bye.